I am so happy to study with you today. We are going to be going over the practice test number 2. It's the PSAT test, fall 2020. These are release tests, and I don't think that it can be, remade. That's why I only use things that were released from College Board. I always want to use the free stuff used from College Board. I want to use them. Their materials that they give out for free, and I want to use it against them because I want to show you how to get a really great score. So for those of you that are preparing for your PSAT test, this is the perfect time. And if you're preparing for your SAT test, don't sleep on this. I really think that using PSAT materials, you get the biggest bang for your buck if you're beginning your journey in the studying, because you don't get as tired. There's not as many questions. You have 60 minutes on the PSAT test, and there's only 47 questions as compared to 52. So you get fewer questions with just as much opportunity to study and practice the strategies that I'm going to teach you. The very first section that you will meet on any and every SAT or PSAT test is the fiction section. And there are a couple things to really keep in mind in the fiction section. The first one is never skip this. It's the only background information. It's the only background knowledge you'll be given. So don't skip it. It's a gift. Sometimes it's, more information than others. This one is not much at all, but just in case they give you a little more information, don't ever skip that one. The other thing to remember on the fiction section, and this is going to be the hardest one, especially for you juniors in upper level classes and sophomores in upper level classes. A lot of times, I'm an English teacher myself, we try to have you really pull apart a reading. We want to look at it from a 360-degree view. We want to talk about the motivation of the characters. We want to then think about how that applies to real life, where else we've seen this in other text, what lessons can be learned from that. We want to read into the motivation of the characters and really try to analyze everything, because it makes for interesting, discussion in the classroom. And that's what you're doing in upper level, particularly AP Lang, AP Lit. That's what you're going to have to do. I taught it with H General paper, making sure that the kids aren't just reading for the sake of reading, that we're going deeper into it. My son's freshman English teacher was all about that. How does this, you don't just give me a summary. You have to go more into it. We have to really dig deeper and think about the bigger themes and the bigger qualities and how it goes into life. And unfortunately, you can't do that with this. Number one, we have 60 minutes. You don't have time to do that. And number two, none of the questions are going to ask you that. In fact, it's going to be the exact opposite. You are only allowed to answer questions based on the information given. It is very, very, very bland. You are only allowed to answer questions based on the information given. You are not allowed to read into anything. You're not allowed to infer. You're not allowed to think about how the author would have felt. You're just answering the questions based on the information given. So the way that I do like to have you think about it, but you don't have time to do this on the test, but I'm just doing this because I want to talk to you about it, is that old plot, diagram that you've been doing since elementary school. Because we only have, a very short excerpt from the text, we're never really going to get to the climax. We're never going to understand the climax, but we will understand the main character. So definitely getting to know the one main character, and what that main character's motivation in this excerpt is. So we're going to look for the, sorry, I don't want to spell this wrong by talking, the main character and what his or her motivation is. Along the way that you predict what the questions are going to be is you look for any type of little conflict. So, any types of little conflicts. So if it is the main character struggling with something, if it's, the main character arguing, trying to figure something out, all these little conflicts are going to lead to, again, not the climax of the story, but, the reason for this excerpt being in front of us. They're trying to figure something out. The main characters are always trying to figure something out. Even though there will always be, kind of outside characters helping to develop this character, you want to only focus on one main character. All the questions will only come from one main character. They're not going to come from any of the kind of the side characters. They're not going to do that because, again, there's not enough time, and that would cause you to infer too much. While you're reading, if you do find these things, if you find some conflicts, if you find some things that the characters are going through, then definitely underline that. When I'm reading, that's what I do. That's how I identify what I think could potentially become a question or something that I want to focus on. So I do mark the text, but again, as somebody who loves to read, I mark the text on everything anyway. It's my way of keeping myself true to the text and focused more than anything. And on a Saturday morning, when you're at your testing center at 7 a.m. and the butterflies are going on and the anxiety starts to kick in, sometimes you need those reading strategies to keep you focused. So if that's what it takes, then by means underline. I can almost guarantee you that the people around you will not be doing that because they just don't. But I would very much prefer if you would take the time to mark the text so that we can always go back and talk about it after. All right, I'm going to pause the video because you don't have to sit here and watch me read. And when we come back, I will have this filled out so that we can talk about it, and I will have marked the text, and we will get into the questions. Let's start reading. There were a couple times there where I could hear it in my mind, the first one, as he, it felt like as Mosher kept going around the track, and the coach was sitting at the same place. As he came up to the coach, he kept saying he was like seeing him through water, or he was drowning. I don't know if you watched A Christmas Story, and Ralphie, the little boy, the main character, he's trying to go see Santa Claus, and he has to make his way through this long line and up this huge flight of stairs, and it's a really long task to get to Santa Claus. And as soon as he gets up there, the camera like pans so that you see like this really, really close up of Santa and the elf, and they're talking to him like this, and it's really uncomfortable. It's a really interesting camera angle. But that's what I kept thinking as he came up to his coach, that the coach is kind of like this bobblehead, kind of trying to talk to him like Santa Claus and the elf from A Christmas Story. And then the other thing that I could hear was that there's this old song, and it's like, what we have here is a failure to communicate. And that seems like what a old track coach would say. All right, so the main character, Mosher, he was on a time trial, not a race. That was repeated. So since it was repeated at least twice, I underlined it twice. Right here in the first part of the text, I wanted to make sure that I had that. It's a time trial, not a race. Mosher shrugged when his coach suggested. Okay, that was the first time where I was like, I don't know if I like this kid. Again, not inferring anything, but, and he said, I shrugged. So he's there with this coach that seems seemingly new to him, not new to the team, but new to him. And the reason why I feel that way is because, he gave his directions to the team, and then he checked on this kid's shoes. So I'm kind of making sure, kind of thinking like it's new to him. The coach said, don't drain the well. But this kid went out, ran too hard. There was a crowd. Reminds me a lot of the 1 mile thing we used to have to run in middle school. And then I never got to the point of feeling sick and throwing up on my coach, but this kid did. So all in all, the main character, his motivation was not to listen to the coach. Maybe because he didn't have a rapport with him, but he did not listen to the coach. And he really, 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 really wanted to know what his time was at the end as he was throwing up all over the place. So just to give you an idea, here's what I marked just to show you the different things that I marked. So let's see whether or not I predicted what the questions were going to be. All right, let's start. Based on the passage, which character would most likely agree with the idea that when trying something new, it's best not to push one's limits. Okay, so we don't know a ton of the characters, obviously. There were a lot of, there's a group of runners. But who said don't push your limits? Falvo said it, yes. McCann, that was one of the runners. I just happen to remember that. He didn't show that at all. That's the exact opposite of our little friend Mosher, the person who said let him go. The idea would be Falvo said over and over, do not push your limits. What's the best evidence? All right, we're at the very beginning. This is question number 2. We're going to assume that it comes from the beginning. In fact, I'm going to look 24 to 27, line 28. Based on all this, I'm going to get rid of these 2 because they come after 24 to 27 and 28. So between these 2, we're looking for Falvo to say, don't push your limits. Don't push your limits. Don't push your limits. Okay, so 14 to 17, all right to McCann. All right, I want you to stay contained, stay smooth. I don't want to see anybody drain the well today. That means you, Mr. McCann. Seems okay, but remember what we're looking for is him talking to the main character. Line 19 to 22, he turned yourself. He turned to me. I don't want you doing anything stupid, Mosher. Some of those boys have been at it a while. Don't think about them. Think about yourself. Don't push your own limits. I like that one. Don't push your own limits. That's the... So there. In the context of Falvo's instructions to the runner, the main purpose of lines 24 to 27, pace to okay, is... Wait. You didn't start to look back, did you? No. Everybody else in the room is going to be doing this. We're going to get down to 2. We don't want to look back unless we know why we're looking back. And remember, the way that these questions are written, they have to give an answer to the kid that's going to get the 500. They have to give an answer to the kid that's going to get the 570. They have to give an answer to the kid that's going to give a 620. And that's usually a pretty plausible answer. They have to give an answer to the kid that's getting the 750. You're the kid that's getting the 750. So what we have to do is we have to eliminate the other questions. We're going to get rid of the ones that do not make sense, that don't answer the question. We're going to get rid of 2. We're going to eliminate. In the context of Falvo's instructions on the runners, the main purpose of him saying pace is to provide useful general information to the group. Sure, absolutely, all day long, right? Emphasize and elaborate on advice given earlier. Now, I do remember that, so I do want to look back and see that. But let's see. Introduce a philosophy applicable to sports and life. Not stated like that. For you to pick this one, that means you're reading outside the text. Remember I said you're not allowed to do that? So it can't be that one. We can't read outside the text. Reveal Falvo's underlying motivation. Never in there did it talk about Falvo's underlying motivation. And if we are looking for motivation, we're only looking for Mosher. So in the context of his instruction to the runners, the main purpose of line 24 to 27, pace to okay, is to, what is he doing? Pace yourself. Oh, he's talking to Mosher. Pace yourself. Let them do what they do. They'll be about 30 yards ahead in the first lap. Don't worry about them. Go out slow, feel your way. Then bring it home as best you can. This is not the first time he said that. I don't want you doing anything stupid. I don't want to see anybody draining the well. I think that's it. So between provide useful he wasn't talking to the group, so it can't be that. Emphasize and elaborate on advice given earlier. Absolutely. In the context of the passage, I shrugged, and sure, I said, mainly served to show the narrators. So again, we're going to be hearing this. Let's get down. Let's narrow it down. Let's see if we can get rid of 2 before we look back. So in the context of the passage, I shrugged, and sure, I said, mainly served to show the narrators. Was the narrator ever shy? There was no evidence of that. And if there was, you read into it, which you're not allowed to do. Was he dismissive? Yes. I mean, that's basically the theme. He was very dismissive of anything the coach told him to do. Was he dishonest? Never. Was he hostile? No. So he was dismissive. Based on the passage, how did the experienced runners respond to Falvo's advice? They enthusiastically embraced it. I didn't see any evidence of that. They acted like they hadn't heard it. Yeah. They generally accepted it. They only pretended to take it seriously. So there was no evidence of that. I seem to remember this is when he was telling the group, and I think, where was he talking to the group? Right here. All right, I want you to stay contained, stay smooth. Let me make sure. That a tough case. I don't want you to do anything stupid. Mosher, I shrugged. I mean, he was just basically saying it's a time trial, not a race. They still ran it the best they could. So they acted like they hadn't heard it. That the evidence for that was in what they did. So all the words that he said here and then what they did. So it would be B. They only pretended to take it seriously would be an inference. We can't do that. What does the narrator say about his motivation for performing as he did in the time trial? He was determined to keep up with the other runners. Okay. He wanted to prove something to himself. If we think that, then we would have to infer it. That he wished to improve on his previous time. I didn't get the feeling that he had ever been out there before, did you? This was the first time out there. He was unable to provide a reason for his behavior. He was determined, so motivation for performing as he did. So how did he do? He talked a lot about the fact that he was drowning, the fact that he felt like there was something around something was holding him back. He couldn't believe that they were lapping him. So his motivation, he was unable to provide a reason, or he was trying to keep up with the other runners. This is a difficult one. We're toward the end, so I'm going to stay over in this area. But it was interesting. He did talk to us a little bit right there in line 63, 61. I don't know why, I can't explain it. By the end of the third lap, I was barely moving, clawing in the air, oblivious to everything except the dirt unfolding endlessly in front of me. Let him go, I heard somebody say. So he doesn't know, he can't explain it. He was unable to provide a reason for his behavior. Provides the best evidence. 23. Ooh, we can't get rid of any. But this is the last question. Oh, is it? Oh, I'm wrong. Sorry, I'm wrong. Okay, we're okay. That he was unable to provide a reason for his behavior. I'm just going to look back at kind of where I was. Because I'm looking. I know it's not right at the beginning. Because on line 36, had he even started running yet? They had just started. They didn't run, they flowed. So he's not giving us like reason for his slow performance because he had just started running it. His motivation for performing as he did. I don't know. I can't explain it. I don't know why I'm coming to this one. Maybe because it's the only time that he kind of talks to us. I don't know why I can't explain it. By the end of the third lap, I was barely moving. We're going between, I don't know. I can't explain it. But yeah. 73 to 76, I remember into him. I remember seeing him appear in front of me like I was coming from underwater and trying to swerve, but I was barely standing as I walked right into him. That doesn't tell us about why he performed he did. And needed line 91 to 94. 91. I'll tell you what you got. Proof you could beat yourself up. That's the coach talking, not the main character. Based on the passage, when Falva says, don't drain the well, he probably means don't use up all your energy. Yeah. Don't get sick. He didn't. No. Don't try to outdo one another. Don't quit before you're finished. That was it. Don't use up all your energy. As used in line 89, vindicated most nearly means interesting. That is a bigger word. Good thing is, if you don't know what it means, it's okay. Because we're getting rid of it. Look at that. We totally get rid of it. All right, so what I'm going to do is he laughed. That bitter Falva laugh. Okay, so it's a bitter laugh. It's like an I told you so laugh. Ha! Ha! Like he just won, like he just won the race, or he just was proven right. He wants to know what he got, he said, like there was somebody with us. You want to know what you got? I'll tell you what you got. Proof you could beat yourself senseless. Okay, so like he just been vindicated, like he was just proven right. Like he was just won. Avenged. Like he came back after somebody? No. Set free, won, proven right now. Defended against, won or proven no. Shit. Sorry. I have done this a few times. Shucks. Sorry. Okay. So all in all, you saw some questions where you had to be really careful not to infer. And if you had chosen the one that you had made an inference on, it would have been the incorrect answer. So I hope that you see that with this fiction section, you cannot use those strategies that, you've been taught and, really had to practice for the last few years, because everything has to be given to you directly in this text. And that's it for the fiction section. Thanks for studying with me.